Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Welcome back to Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, and today talking about books and writing and lots more stuff with Gail Bowen from Regina, Saskatchewan, one of Canada's, if not Canada's, foremost mystery writers and also a writing expert. We'll get to that in a moment. So, Gail Bowen, how did you survive the pandemic? Or have you?
Well, yes, so far. It was. I feel really embarrassed to say it. We were very fortunate because our children and grandchildren all live in Regina, so we were, even if it was a lawn visit, we were still able to see them. And of course, as you know, writing is a sedentary profession, and often and a solitary one. So my everyday life was not affected much, and I know other people had. I mean, I feel terrible even saying that because I know other people really suffered. And but I was as I said, it was not bad, and I actually did complete Joanne number whatever. I think it's number 21. I think not the one that you have, but the one afterwards, and it's already in the. It's already the contract is signed, and it's in New York with the editor. So, every cloud has a silver lining, as we say.
Exactly. No, I didn't get anything done except a move from the couch to the fridge and back to the couch, and it was just kind of like...
I think that was the reality for many, and I will not say that I did not visit the refrigerator more often, because that would be not true. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it, but no, it was fine, but I mean, of course, we're not supposed to be talking about this, but I mean, like everyone else, I'm just not happy about the fact that we may be looking at this fourth wave, and so anyway, but we carry on. So about writing, all right?
Yes, all right. Well, Joanne Kilbourne. No, Gail Bowen is with us, who actually is Joanne Kilbourne, or maybe Joanne Kilbourne is Gail Bowen. I don't know. But 1990 was the first Gail Bowen, Joanne Kilbourne mystery, Deadly Appearances. So over the years, that's like 30 years or so, has Joanne changed at all? The character herself?
Oh, yes. Sure, she has. And it was, I made the decision. I mean, there were a lot of decisions at the beginning, obviously. Most of them were just lucky. But that one decision I made that was thoughtful, or was thought out at any rate, was that Joanne would age in the course of the books. And Ruth Rendell and I did a reading together in Vancouver, I don't know, probably some years ago. Anyway, and she was absolutely charming. We got along well, but someone said to me in the audience, said, "Now I noticed that you're allowing Joanne to age." And before I could answer, Ruth Rendell smacked me on the arm and said, "You'll regret that, my girl." And but I haven't, because it's allowed. It's meant that Joanne is a different person today than in the Joanne books now than she was in Deadly Appearances, just as I am a different person, because we both aged. Joanne has not aged as fast as I have, but she's in the book that you read, I think she turned 62, and she was, I think, 43 at the beginning. So her children have grown, and and that has given me a lot of latitude for plot lines and character development. Her kids have made choices and decisions, and some are, just like all our kids, some of the decisions have worked and some have not. But Joanne herself has changed, and she's had some relationships, although not many. But she has. I'm careful and Anglican enough to keep that under control. But I did get, when Joanne met Zach and they slept together after only knowing her one another week. I got some pretty angry mail about that. I mean, and she at that point was like 56 or something like that. Well, how long does one wait? And she, anyway, it was. But that then she's has this really good marriage with Zach, and so and that's good. And she's also, as they both say, that they are old enough to realize how lucky they are. And I think that's not something that you think of when you're younger. I think none of us does. We tend just to accept the fact that everything's working well, or bemoan the fact that it isn't. But I think I have. I think that was the real. See, that's been the secret of the series, is that Joanne has she is certainly flawed, but she has grown wiser. She's, as we all do when we age. So.
Exactly. That's the old saying: is too soon old, too late smart.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think honestly, among people my age, that is really perhaps the most frequently expressed sentiment. Why didn't we realize X? And I think I've been lucky along the way, because I think I've always known that I have had good luck, and I've had the same kinds of bumps, but as everyone else does. But I tended always to feel that that I have had. I've been in the right place at the right time, and part of that is demographic. I came into writing, you mentioned 30 years ago, and that was a good time to start as a writer. There was still, the federal government was still, kind of pushing the Massey report, and there was real commitment to the arts in Canada. And so, publishers were getting money, and there were book festivals all over the place. And of course, I got invited because I was new, and I think also a lot of the time because I was from Saskatchewan, and they were embarrassed to always just have everybody from Vancouver or Toronto, and they say, "Oh, wait, yeah, somebody from the middle does, somebody from Saskatchewan, we all have to throw her in." So I got off to a very good start, and I've been kind of, and so I was, when things started to go south, like when the newspapers disappeared or effectively disappeared, and when the money at CBC dried up and all, all the good stuff that I was doing, like Peter Zosky and all that, kind of went, as I said, went south. But I was established enough that I was able to kind of float it out. So, I have been lucky. I have been lucky in my timing, and still am. So there you go.
There you go. Always be grateful, because what other choice do we have, right?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. Part of that is, is that I think that, the first thing I do every morning, because I am Anglican, but the first thing I do, I pray first thing in the morning, but the first thing I do is just to kind of run through what the blessings of the day before. And it's amazing, because it's so easy not to acknowledge them. And they can be the smallest thing, but all of a sudden you realize, that was really, it was just an ordinary day, but it was really a good day.
And a good day is a good day when people read a Joanne Kilbourne book by Gail Bowen. So one of the decisions you actively made, I'm sure, way back when, was that you kept her, the Joanne Kilbourne settings in Regina, Saskatchewan, and Canada. So I'm assuming, obviously, that was a conscious decision, because a lot of other Canadian writers set things elsewhere.
Yeah, no, and it was a very conscious decision, because back to the Massey report and its sort of collateral benefits. But Margaret Atwood, I quote this all the time, but Margaret Atwood wrote in the book Survival, said, what would happen to a person who looked into a mirror every day and saw a reflection that was not their own? And of course, that was exactly what it was like for me and a lot of people my age growing up. Because all the books that we had at school, they were not Canadian books, they were books that were most often, I think, often American. The textbooks were,
exactly,
and the stories that we read were British. And then, not that there's anything wrong with either of those, but I felt, I did my master's in Canadian literature, and my PhD work was in that, but I really felt it was important for us to have a literature that reflected us. And certainly when I started teaching Indigenous people and worked at First Nations University, I was very aware of the fact that we had to really encourage growth in that field, because when Ted and I started, the first time we went to Little Pine Poundmaker, which is Little Pine Poundmaker now in a Cree Nation. We wanted to teach a book that was Indigenous. We could not find a single thing, not in the States or anywhere else. We ended up finally teaching a book called Laughing Boy, and it was by a guy named Oliver Lafarge, who was a Caucasian anthropologist. It was a novel about the Navajo people in the 1920s, and here we were teaching our Northern Cree people in early 70s, but they really loved it, because it was about people who had the customs of the Navajo and the Northern Cree are very different, but they understood so much of what was going on. So that sort of underscored my belief that it's important to reflect the people that you know and care about. So that's why Joanne is in Saskatchewan.
That's right, and I agree with everything you said, especially the fact about we have to reflect, or able to reflect or see ourselves in the media, literature, music, because in radio in the old days, I was one of the few who did not object to the so-called CanCon, Canadian Content Music Regulations, and everybody else was, oh, it's terrible, why should we be told what to play on the radio, and blah, blah, blah. And my reasoning didn't convince anybody, but was the same thing, because you got to start somewhere. If people hear a song on the radio by a guy from New York, so what? But if they hear it on the radio by the guy who lives down the street, or the girl that they went to high school with, then somebody will lead to something else, and then that'll lead to something else, and now we have, like, my wife and I did a show on CFCR a few years back, but it was the jazz type program. 95% of the records were Canadian content. I could have made it 100, but I felt I had to give, Stan Getz or somebody a bit of...
that's exactly right. You have to... I remember, and I'm sure you do as well, interviews where people would... essentially the question would be, if you're any good, why are you still in Canada?
Right.
It would be couched in gentler terms.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was that was the implication.
And still we go running around about, oh, look, there's Jim Carrey. He's Canadian. Yeah, he's been living in the States for about 900 years. Why should we care now if he's Canadian? But we still got that terrible
that's so
sense.
Sad.
Yes.
I wish we wouldn't do that, because, it does sound, it is kind of pathetic. And Joni Mitchell or someone like that. But I think when you get to Joni Mitchell's level, she's really just international.
Right.
Everyone knows her. Ted's cousin in Texas, and who is a lawyer in Houston and a Trumpite, and he and I have have very strained conversations, but we agree about Joni Mitchell, and so there are those kinds of. That kind of thing that I think, she's just an immensely gifted human being, but I still, it's good to still think that she did come from Saskatchewan. She doesn't make a big deal of it, although she does, sort of, some of the things she sings, yeah. But anyway, I agree, and I also think, but it is important for people to be able to succeed here. And because if as soon as you get good, you leave, what does that do for our culture?
Right. And we're talking with Gail Bowen about the Joanne Kilbourne mystery. So, Gail, I've got 3 books in front of me, and I'm wondering if we could just run them down with each other. And the first one is 12 Rose Street, and my mother, you gave it to my mother. It said, for Agnes Rimmer, Happy Mother's Day with warmest wishes from your wonderful son David and me, Gail Bowen, April 16th, 2015. And then star asterisk, also an Anglican. So there you go.
Yes,
that was great.
There you go, yes.
12 Rose Street. What was that one about? If you can remember.
It was about 2 things, and it was... obviously, it was important for Joanne, I think, she lives as I do, live in a very comfortable. I live in Old Lakeview, and it's just beautiful. You know, it's a lovely area. We have cathedral of trees, and we're like I can turn in my office right now and look, and I can see Wascana Creek, and so it's but 10 minutes from where I live is North Central. And that's a very different life for anyone who's born there. I mean, I've taught enough students who come from there, Indigenous students, and I have really come to care about what goes on there, because I think, I mean, it's the big thing. I mean, that there are all the ancillary problems that come with poverty, but the worst thing, it seems to me, always is just that children seem not to have any hope. I mean, no matter what, I think most kids who, if they're lucky enough to have, their parents who are in the home and in a good relationship, that I think kids tend to think, yes, I mean, there is hope for me to make whatever life I want. But that I have heard again and again for people who work in North Central, including police. They say that's the one that it just is not there. And so I wanted to write about that. I wanted to write but also about the importance of establishing a place down there where people would feel, where they could learn, and where there was a recreation and training center, and where they could learn, but where they would be given hope, and their children would be able to see. The children would grow up seeing possibilities, and so that was one part of it. The other part was with Joanne and her huge betrayal by Jill Ajawi, and Joanne discovers that that her husband and Jill Ajawi had an affair that went on for 15 years, and I think the big thing I wanted to deal with there was just was the need for forgiveness, and it's not. I mean, Joanne is just understandably just livid, and I found it very difficult writing that scene where because she and Jill were really like sisters, and she trusted her, and she and Ian, she trusted him. She thought their marriage was, it was not easy, but she thought basically that what mattered to him most was his family, and to discover that that was not the case was terrible for her. But she also realized, by the end, I mean, they sort of cobbled together, she and Jill cobbled together a sort of reconciliation. It's not a real one. And it really kind of comes to, I'm thinking that maybe you're going to be talking about an image in the lake, because Jill and Joanne finally have to really kind of work it out. Because it's the old axiom that the only thing harder than forgiveness is not forgiving, and I think that's an important thing to remember. And so the thing that just one last point on that, what I was so struck by was the number of letters I received from people, and the number of people who came up to me after I had done a reading and said, "Can you teach me how to forgive?" Wow. And that just broke my heart, because it's I mean, if you are aware of someone's faith background or what, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying when you have to be Anglican, just anyone who has a spiritual life, period. I mean, you really are aware of the fact that we are all fallible and that we all need forgiveness, and so, I mean, I thought, but I mean, that's all I can say, I guess, when I'm talking to somebody who's a stranger, and they're obviously very desperate, or they wouldn't be talking to me about this, Right. So, yeah, that really got me. So, yeah, so those were the two things that one was an unexpected benefit, which was the fact that at least I was able to talk about forgiveness with people, but also to talk about North Central and how that we can't just allow that to continue as is, So
that was about 12 Rose Street by Gail Bowen. Now, you don't necessarily need to read all the Joanne Kilbournes in order, do you?
No, I don't think you do. You can read them standalone. I'm right now, because this is 20. The book I'm working on right now is number oh Lord, 22, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going back, and there's just there. I just want. I mean, you don't want to make factual errors, and the readers are very, very good and quick about pointing out factual errors to me. But I thought Joanne was X, at a certain point, and so I mean, I go back, and so I read them sometimes. I'll just read them out of order, but of course, I mean, I guess I know. I guess I know what's going on. But a funny thing today, because they're doing audio books of the series, and so today I was listening to the Winner's Circle, which was that was way back, well, a while back anyway in the series, and I was listening to it, and the ending came, and I started to cry. And it just, and I thought, wow, I mean, you wrote that. That's sort of egocentric, but it really hit me, and part of it was, I think, that the woman, the actor who read it was very good. But it really did move me. And so, I mean, there's that part of it. I think that, you can pick up on, you can pick up on the books, you can pick up on the characters. We are doing something now that I think is smart, which is, we're putting the character, a character guide in, and I think, and that's there with in An Image in the Lake, and we will be doing that from now on, so that people don't have to be, spending too much time scratching their heads.
Right, and we have next is the one. See, I just got these both just a while ago, so I have the Unlocking season, and actually yesterday, An Image in the Lake arrived. So
you haven't? Okay.
And the Unlocking season is kind of spooky, because the guy is up north, and then all of a sudden he gets some kind of psychedelic, psychotic reaction, and things unfold from there. So that's a pretty spooky book, actually.
Well, and it's I think Stephen Sondheim said that the title of a book should really tell, or in his case a song, should really tell the whole story. And the Unlocking season does. And it's because it's, first of all, the title, that came from Kurt Vonnegut. He said that if you live in climates like ours, and where he lived, there are not 4 seasons in the year. There are 2 months I will start with hard winter, 2 months of hard winter, and then you have 2 months of the Unlocking season, which is when the earth warmed, and then you have spring, and then it goes on. Then there, it goes through the sequence, but then again, September, October, but November and December are the seasons when the world locks up, for us anyway. And November and December, that's about it. Where you like right now, it's a very November day to me. I know it's October, but so anyway, so he talks about that, and so it takes place in that season and in that time of year, but also where there's all this potential for new growth, and the forsythia are blooming, and the first signs of spring and life, and the winter palette is disappearing, and the gentler palette is coming in. So there's that, but also it is because it's Joanne's story about Joanne in the book has to. She's helping with she's assisting with the writing of the script for Sisters and Strangers, and which is the story of her life for the first 15 years or so, focusing on that, and then more of it. But she's having to face many things she didn't want to face, so it's an unlocking for her as well, and so it's there's just some really hard truths about her own life and things she didn't want to acknowledge, but has to, and just that's. That's just healthy, I think, for all of us. But for Joanne, there were a number of things that she didn't want to deal with, but she does, and finds that she's able to be stronger to go forward. And I think that's true too, for all of us. That if you're, it's not. That's Jungian, but it isn't that you have to strive for perfection. But if you understand why you are behaving as you do, at least you have some some ability to perhaps acknowledge that this is why I'm doing that and it's not right. And it's coming from something that happened way back, and I shouldn't be. The example I use with my students is, if you, I'm not going to ask you to tell me everything that ever happened in your life, but tell yourself, face that yourself as a writer, because if you've had a bad experience, say with a girl, what will happen if you don't deal with that is that when you're writing, every female character you create is somehow going to be deeply flawed, and because we carry that into our work. And so I say, at least acknowledge what happens, and then you will be a better writer for it, because you won't be being drawn always to that. I say that, and then who had a terrible relationship with my own mother, every single book is so much about a mother, Joanne and her kids. So, I do what I say, don't do what I do.
And also in the Unlocking season especially, we're talking about the film industry, which there used to be a film and television industry in Saskatchewan, but then certain governments decided we didn't need that. I kind of take it you don't agree with that decision either.
I do not, and it really was a pity, because it was coming along so well. And what it does, it was giving good, clean jobs to people, and it was and also giving them, professionals, back to the beginning of what we were talking about. They didn't have to leave the province.
Right.
People who were actors, or people who were in working in the technical areas of photography or lighting or costumes and all of those kinds of things, they were able to stay here, and not only to work for a good salary, but they were also able to really apprentice with people who were, work under people who really was a first class education for them, and so I think. It was really a very short-sighted decision, and it's one that I think we're still paying for. It's really such a sad thing, and I know my daughter she works for a post-production company, and they do commercials. That's what they do, but so she's still in that area, of work, but they're always having to hire from outside, actors, and she just, it makes her crazy, because she was friends with so many of the people who were involved with, as actors or tech or other things like that. So, and they've moved away. Their lives changed, everything, and that's what happens when you decide that taxes. You decide that you're going to just take your own petty little problem out on, if you're in politics, you're going to punish somebody just because you were aggravated at the way, somebody made a movie or something. So, anyway, yeah.
Yep. And that brings us to An Image in the Lake, like you said, ties in kind of with 12 Rose Street, which like I said, I just opened it, and forgiveness is the theme of that one. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, for sure. And the image, an image in the lake, it is partly that. It's partly also to do with the young woman. If you just received it, I don't want to wrap it for you, but it's also to do with that if a young person is not allowed to grieve properly, they will often become very bitter and retaliatory against other people. And you see a young woman like that in the book, and she has to, she does a lot of harm before she faces what she's done. And so there's that, but also the forgiveness thing is, I think the image that kind of carries it there is there's just something that I read about. It's a Japanese art form where if if we break a bowl, drop a bowl that's valuable and it breaks, you're angry and you throw it out. But with the Japanese philosophy is that you take those pieces and you put them back together, and they use gold, a gold kind of a glue that has gold dust or gold flecks in it. So the fact that it has been broken is apparent because you're highlighting that, by putting not trying to make it disappear, to make it seem like it's an invisible fix, but to show that has it was broken and now it has been put together again, and that of course reflects the whole idea that as people we will be broken, but you can't just deny that happened. You put yourself back together again, but you allow what caused the break to become part of you and what you've learned. And I think that's a very wise philosophy.
And we're sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, I was just going to say, and I think it's. I think we would feel much more. I think we would be kinder to one another if we acknowledged the fact that, first of all, that we have been broken, and it's been difficult to put ourselves back together again. But also, when someone else is broken, we would be able to feel real empathy for it and to understand truly what it felt and what it's taking them to put themselves back together again. So yeah, I think it just makes us more human.
And we're with Gail Bowen and talking about the Joanne Kilbourne mysteries, but that leads us to Sleuth, Gail Bowen on Writing Mysteries, which came out a couple of years ago. So can you give us maybe top 5 tips for writing mysteries?
Oh, well, yeah, I can give you the top 5 tips, but I think it's that book. I deliberately wanted to make it very accessible. There are many, many books about how to write, but I wanted that to be just something that was, it's short, but I think all the tips in there are very common sense. I'll start with the beginning and the ending, but one is take time. A lot of time before making your decisions, before you even, type the first word on the page. And, what I would suggest in the book is that take a look at, obviously, I'll say mysteries because that's what I do. But, when I started writing, I was 43. And so I thought, what do I like in mysteries? And I discovered that what I liked was a strong protagonist. I liked a sense of place. I liked some sort of social activism or I liked there to be something other than just plot. I liked them to be a theme, and I liked family, and I loved Saskatchewan. So that made a whole lot of it. But I took a while making those decisions, and they served me well. But I think I've just worked with a student and mentoring her, and she had written a book. She'd been in a class of mine before, and she asked that I be her mentor. She's at U of S, and she asked that I be her mentor, and I've done it. And it was so much fun working with her because we went through the beginning thing, which is, where she had made decisions that because we were talking about it all the time, she was going back and we were revisiting and reconsidering and changing many things. And so, as I said to her, it's so frustrating. I know, when you think you've got this number of, you've got this number of pages, and all of a sudden, there you are back at the beginning. But it really is like movie making. Anybody who makes movies will tell you that, when you walk in to the first meeting, when everybody comes together around the table, people have been working for months to get to that point. And I know I write plays, and it's very exciting because, if the play is just mine, then I know what I've been doing. But all of a sudden, I'm sitting around a table with actors who have been looking at the characters that I've created and who have interpreted them and worked on that, what makes them who they are and how can I best show that and that. And then you have costume designers who will come in with pictures of the costumes that the actors are going to wear. You have a set designer who comes in they have a little kind of a little model made of balsa wood of what the stage is going to be. So all of a sudden, all of this creativity comes together, and it's really exciting. But I think it's also, it's weird because I never felt nervous about a play. I feel nervous about a book, but because I always felt I was in just such good hands. because everyone cared about what was going on as much as I did. I mean, they wanted as much for it to succeed. I know my publishers want my books to succeed, but I mean that's because it's their business. And no, I mean I think they like me well enough and all, but you know it's when you're the writer, it is you. I mean that's you've done it, and there it is out in the big world, and you just have to kind of. I mean, I tend not to. I worried an awful lot more at the beginning than I do now, just because, I mean, truly, you do your best, and that's it. You know, and I think it's, oh God, Henry James, who says, you know, we work in the dark. We work in the dark. We do what we do, and we give our best. And I think that's about it. You know.
And then hope for the best.
You do. Anyway, so thinking about that would be one is make those decisions carefully. Number two is learn how to not just plot, but also how to pace. And there are some good hints in there about how to pace. And one of them is this sort of a skating metaphor. It's push glide metaphor. It's not my original one at all. It's with somebody named Stephen Minot. But anyway, he says it's like skating. If you constantly were pushing and skating, I mean, you're going around there at a clip, but it's not much fun to watch. And if you're constantly gliding, it's quite beautiful, but there's nothing going on. And the analogy he makes is that when you're writing, action should be followed by reflection. A period of reflection, and often by the protagonist who thinks about what just happened, what might happen again, what's going to happen down the road. So it enriches your book. It also allows you not to have that staccato, thing that does in so many writers, where it's all plot, like a little kid seeing a movie, and then if that's the way you write, plot, after plot point, all of a sudden, that's when you run out of steam. And it's interesting because right now I'm on a 3-person panel with Peter Robinson and Marion Mistress, who owns Sleuth, or is co-owner of Sleuth in Toronto, and me, and we're looking at that. We're choosing a Grand Master for Canadian Crime Writers of Canada, and so we're looking at, and you have the rule for the choice. Like I've won that, I've become the Grand Master, and Peter has, and Marion's she sells books, so she's not in that, but just mysteries. And but anyway, but you have to have written 10 books. You have to be Canadian, and we were just talking about how few writers stick it out for 10. You start, people start, and then, I know over the years I've read with lots of people, and they're, I thought, wow, this is terrific, but they just they have not made the decisions at the beginning that will allow them to take the series on. And so back to that again. And the other thing is just edit, and never stop. And that, and we all know that, but look at it at the end, try and, anyway, I can't remember her name, but she's a brilliant writer. But she says, ideally, leave yourself a year between the last point of your manuscript and sending it off. But that is, for most of us, we need the money far faster than that. And but even if you leave, even if you can leave it 6 weeks and then come back to it, you will see all kinds of things that need to be fixed. And that's the time to do it, not when you send it to a publisher who looks at it and says, we no longer have the time and the money to hire somebody to fix that kind of thing. We'll get you a good editor, but you have to have done all the best things. That you have to send it, and it should be, as far as you're concerned, A+, not a B, not a B. Not a B. Because it should be the very best you can do. So those are my tips.
Good. And Joanne Kilbourne, Gail Bowen, will either one of them ever retire?
Well, I don't know. I'm careful about that because at the moment, no. I have no plans to, because I'm still enjoying it. But the Joanne books have been very, very good to us. I mean, we have traveled and we've met so many interesting people, and we continue to meet interesting people, and it's, and obviously, I mean, no one ever will get rich writing as a writer in Canada. But movies, and there were 6 of mine that have been made into movies, and that was nice gravy, and I wish that would happen again. But the series has been so good to me. I would never, if I get to the point where I think I have nothing to bring to this, I wouldn't write another one. I notice now, because I am 79, and I'm thinking, I notice now that I try to make an ending that could, if the worst happens, that it could be a satisfying ending, that it would be all right. People would not feel, that Joanne, because people are very, and I love this. I mean, they're very, they are really so fond of Joanne and her family, and they care about them, and so I want to make sure that everyone feels, that I leave them all in a good place, so that people aren't thinking, oh, I wonder what happened, so yeah, that's it. So I really am kind of more careful now about endings. I try to make sure I've got most of the. Obviously, you always, Agatha Christie said, and it's true. I mean, you have to tie up all the plot points, but a lot of writers don't feel the need. I'm not sure I always did feel the need to put their protagonist in a particularly good place. But now I try to make sure that everybody will know that Joanne and Zach will be all right, and and the family will be okay. So. It's. I guess I'm just buying insurance for myself, but well, who else will do it? So yeah.
And we're talking with Gail Bowen, the Joanne Kilbourne Mysteries, the Unlocking Season, and An Image in the Lake, the 2 most recent ones. There's more on the way, and so Joanne, Gail will probably talk again next time they're out.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it, Dennis. Thanks very much. Always good to talk.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.